The royal monarchy, ruling their respective kingdoms for thousands of years over history, covered in elegance and influence, have captivated society for centuries, with many being loved and some being hated. There are whispers and rumors that have surrounded them for years upon years. From hidden conspiracy to the realm of strange and unexplained, they have captivated the imagination for centuries, and over the course of time, theories have arose, some with questionable acts, and others from the dark depths of the imagination. Join me as we go on a multiple segment journey into the conspiracies behind the royals and discover just how heavy the crown really is. Welcome to Tales from the Den. Throughout the rule of kings and queens, the term blue blood comes to mind, with alleged notion that the royal family, along with other prominent world figures and ancestral lineage, hold a very rare blood type known as Rh negative, which is an oddity in the medical world. Of only around 15% of the world's population holding any trace of this. In this episode, we will be looking into the origin of Rh negative DNA and how this may reveal a strange question over the royals and society in general. A blood type, also known as a blood group, is a classification of blood based on the presence and absence of antibodies and inherited antigenic substances on the surface of the red blood cells. Blood types are inherited and represent contributions from both parents of an individual. Blood types were first discovered by an Austrian physician named Karl Landsteiner, working at the Pathological Anatomical Institute of the University of Vienna in the year 1900. He found that blood from different persons would clump together when mixed in test tubes, and not only that, but some blood also agglutinated with animal blood, but also often those of human origin. This was the first evidence that blood variation exists in humans. The next year, in 1901, he made a definitive observation that blood serum of an individual would aggulate with only those of certain individuals. Based on this, he classified human bloods into 3 groups, namely Group A, Group B, and Group C. He defined that Group A blood aggulates with Group B, but never with its own type, and likewise Group B aggulates with Group A, and Group C blood is different in that it aggulates with both A and B. This was the discovery of blood groups for which Landsteiner was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology of Medicine in 1930. Blood type C was later renamed to O, after the German "on", meaning of zero or null, and another group, later named AB, was discovered a year later as well. There are blood group systems organized by our genetic structure to carry the information that produces antigens. Antigens are molecules that produce an immune response. So when a foreign substance or toxin enters our system, antigens tell our bodies to attack them. Within the Rh system, there are 61 antigens, with antigen D determining whether one is Rh positive or Rh negative. This antigen is a sensitive protein that exists on the surface of red blood cells and can react negatively if it comes in contact with Rh negative positive blood. Example: if a woman with Rh negative blood becomes pregnant with an Rh positive baby, her body will produce antigens signaling to her immune system that her fetus is essentially toxic. Oddly, the woman's body will kill its own fetus unless given a rare antibody known as Rhd immunoglobulin. This complication is known as hemolytic disease. When we look at hybrid animals and other species, there are similar incompatibilities and sometimes even complete infertility. When a horse and a donkey mate, the genetic differences result in a sterile mule. The same goes for a liger, which is the mix of a lion and a tiger. The two species' chromosomes don't match, so they produce infertile offspring. Could there be a similar incompatibility between Rh negative mothers and Rh positive babies? About 15% of the world's population has the Rh negative distinction, with the D antigen absent in the body. But this percentage of population is not spread evenly across all areas of the planet. While humans are thought to all share a common ancestor originating in sub-Saharan Africa, the number of Rh negative Africans is disproportionately low compared to others, about 3% in fact. In Asia, that proportion is even lower, with only about 1% of the population possessing this rare blood type. The gene that produces Rh negative is largely present in Caucasians, with the highest concentration found in a small region between France and Spain, known as the Basque region. Here, straddling the Pyrenees Mountains, up to 40% of the population is Rh negative, and that's not the only distinguishing feature of the region. Those from the region are also the only people of Western Europe who continue to speak an indigenous Indo-European language, an isolated tongue not spoken anywhere else in Europe. But this language is not just isolated, it's completely unrelated to other European languages. A common explanation for the traits of the people of the Basque region is the idea that early farmers mixed with local hunters before becoming isolated for thousands of years, preserving their language and genetics. Others have suggested that the people of the region could have been the pure descendants of the first modern humans to arrive in Europe. It's alleged that people with Rh negative blood have distinctive physical features paired with a sensitivity for psychic phenomena and sensitivity to spiritual awareness. Some of those features are higher than average IQ, lower body temperature, higher blood pressure, red or reddish hair, extra vertebrae, sensitive vision and particularly sensitive to sunlight, elevated intuition, very light colored eyes such as blue and green. An interesting claim also includes that Rh negative has a blue hue to it, claiming that there are higher levels of copper held within the cells. Interestingly, 85% of the world's population are Rh positive, and only 15% are Rh negative. In 1937, Karl Landsteiner and Alexander Weiner discovered the Rh factor, the protein that makes up the Rh negative blood type, which also carries the gene and is a protein that lives on the surface of red blood cells. Their discovery thus changed the blood types from the 4 we knew, which at the time was A, B, AB, and O, to the 8 that we know today. They discovered the Rh protein while researching solutions for a medical mystery that killed dozens of babies each day. Their discovery led to the development of the Rogam injection in 1968, which is used to prevent an immune response in mothers who are Rh negative. If a pregnant woman who is Rh negative does not receive Rogam and is carrying an Rh positive baby, she risks the health of future pregnancies because she has been exposed to the positive blood from her current unborn baby. If she does not receive the injection, her body will develop antibodies that could attack the positive red blood cells of the baby. There are many proposing a theory that people with Rh negative blood possess alien DNA, since studies found that people with Rh negative blood do not possess the common gene that most of the population has. Looking back, scientists believe that the blood type is linked to specific tribes and groups in France and northern Spain. Independent researchers explained that most of the US presidents possess Rh negative blood, and that it's also a characteristic of the British royal family. What's interesting here is that all of them are distant cousins and can be traced back to a common ancestor. Same for the US presidents. They're all related to King John I. Research discovered that all US presidents except for Martin Van Buren are blood related. They are descendants of the same English king, John Lackland Plantagenet, who was the king who signed the Magna Carta in the year 1215. Now, if you're not familiar with the Plantagenets, they are a dynasty that ruled England from the year 1154 to the year 1485. The dynasty was founded by Geoffrey Plantagenet, who was the Count of Anjou. Called the Handsome, the Fair, or the Plantagenet, was the Count of Anjou and also Duke of Normandy. His marriage to Empress Matilda, daughter of King Henry I of England, led to the centuries-long reign of the Plantagenet dynasty in England. The chronicler John of Marmoutier described Geoffrey as handsome, red-haired, and a great warrior. King Henry I of England, having heard reports on Geoffrey's talents and prowess, sent legates to negotiate a marriage between his 25-year-old daughter, Matilda, and Geoffrey himself. Eventually, consent was obtained from both parties, and Geoffrey and Matilda's marriage took place in 1128. The marriage was meant to seal a lasting peace between England and Normandy. After time passed, his wife bore 3 sons, and their children were King Henry II of England, Geoffrey, Count of Nantes, and William Viscount of Dieppe. An effigy commissioned by his widow to decorate the tomb of Geoffrey of Anjou is one of the earliest examples of European heraldry. Jean de Marmentier, a late 12th century chronicler, reported that in 1128, Henry I of England knighted his son-in-law Geoffrey and granted him a badge of a gold lion. This enamel shows Geoffrey with a blue shield depicting gold lions, apparently the same motif later used by a grandson of Geoffrey, William Longspee. In addition to being one of the first authentic representations of a coat of arms, according to British historians, it suggests possible evidence for the early use of what became the English royal arms. Theories of the origin of the blood type spawn from everything from failed evolution to the speculation that the root of Rh negative blood type citing a random genetic mutation, are the product of an ancient and advanced alien civilization. Some speculation surrounding alien DNA is that the Sumerians believed in an ancient extraterrestrial race called the Anunnaki, who genetically engineered humans who were here at the time. Over 6,000 years ago, the world's first civilization was recording stories of strange celestial gods whom they believed came from the heavens to create mankind. The Sumerians were highly intelligent, amongst other things. Most historians leave this to mythology, the same way they do the Greek gods. Some researchers believe the Anunnaki may have been actual beings, so theorists say it's possible that Rh-negative people are direct relatives of the Anunnaki, a small percent of the population that has advanced extraterrestrial genetics. While there's not much evidence, could there be any validity behind this? Or is it just rumors and conspiracy? Some have pointed to instances of red-haired rulers and even giants in ancient civilizations as potentially having some connection. In South America, some of the bizarrely shaped, elongated skulls were found to have red hair in an area where that hair color isn't native. The gene for red hair originates in the Middle East and Europe. Could the Rh-negative blood type be another connecting factor? Another theory that falls in the more strange and unusual is that the Nephilim of biblical lore are responsible for Rh-negative blood types. In the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim, also known as men of renown, mighty men of old, titans, and hybrids, were a race of genetic splicing between angelic beings and human women, when according to scripture and lore, their fathers, called the Watchers, which were a class of 200 angels sent to observe and look after mankind during the Genesis period in history, descended from the heavens onto Mount Hermon, located in the Middle East, and one day lusted after human women and decided to interbreed with them, creating a human-angel hybrid called the Nephilim. This group of angels were binded into chains of darkness and punished by God due to their transgressions against him, and their offspring were ultimately wiped out in the great biblical flood due to the fact of them being an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. Though it is speculated that some were said to have survived by going underground and waiting out the flood, leaving the Rh-negative blood distinction to continue onwards into time. As rumors and whispers of the royal families and powerful people of the world continue to emerge, a more prominent and popular belief is that they are what conspiracy theorists claim to be called reptilians, which are serpent-like beings disguised as pure humans, but are actually a foreign species mixed with human DNA, with the goal to enslave humanity and rule over them. Now you may think this sounds absolutely absurd and silly, which I would actually agree with you on. However, that being said, perhaps it's not as far as you may think. If we go back to the intermixing of DNA with angelic beings, we take a look at the angels. Now, many writings indicate there are several different types of angels, and a hierarchy of order within the heavens. Studying and researching these beings, we discover a class of angel called the Seraphim, which are a class of angel who are said to be serpent-like in appearance, having 6 wings, and being covered in fire, and covering the throne of God. Many depictions of serpent-like beings have been depicted in history, throughout time, and worshipped as gods, teaching mankind technology and advanced science and arts. Could some of these entities be part of the fallen Watchers that intermixed with human DNA? It is quite interesting as well that there are a multitude of cultural beliefs on reptilians, such as Native American Hopi and Hindu legends. There is a Hopi legend about 3 cities on the Pacific coast that were completely underground, and according to this legend, 5,000 years ago, a meteor shower caused strange beings, described as the lizard people, to seek refuge underground. These creatures constructed an elaborate network of tunnels located under Los Angeles, using advanced technologies that could even melt rock. In Benares, India, there is a nearly identical legend that talks about the Well of Sheshna, which in Hindu legend is an entrance into an underground city of the Nagas that, according to text, are a race of semi-divine serpent-like people that live in an underground city called Patala. According to mythology, it is a place of great power, and only those who were truly holy could make contact with it. One of the major deities of the ancient Mexican pantheon has representations of a feathered serpent, making appearances as early as the 3rd to 8th century CE on the Central Plateau. Ancient references to serpent gods, flying serpents, and dragons are quite common. Collectively, they have been called the serpents of wisdom. There are also scriptural references to serpent-like beings or seraphim, such as Isaiah chapter 6, verse 2, where it states, "Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings with twine. He covered his face, and with twine he covered his feet, and with twine he did fly." And also this one, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 6, "Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar." Curiously, if you believe in the shadow governments of the world, secret societies, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, it is said that people with certain genetics are chosen for prominent roles in society. Everything from actors and musicians, prominent athletes and politicians, even corporate CEOs and world leaders, all who are rumored to contain a form of this genetic makeup, with those who would be quote-unquote more pure, given a more authoritarian rule over the rest. Whether this holds any truth or not is up for debate, but it is quite fascinating and puzzling nonetheless. Are the royal families descendants of angelic beings from a time past, or is it just an ominous rumor? You decide. Join me next time as we continue to dive into the rabbit hole and search for answers on the theories of the royals, and see what may come to light. Thanks for watching. Till next time.